ABC future attendees and those that are already got your ticket, I'm excited to bring back another segment of Meet the Speakers. And we have got quite a lineup for ABC World of Weddings this year. There are 18 speakers, and we are going to meet one of them here in a few moments. We have a lovely keynote by McKenna, and then myself as the MC. But it was really important to me that you all got to see a little bit about who was going to come and share their knowledge and drop those gems. And so today, Dr.
LaShawn.
So we're going to kick off this morning by we're going to talk about mastering client relations. Why was that a topic that you felt the wedding industry needed in 2024?
I attend a lot of different conferences. It's the specific diverse audiences that I work within. And one of the things that I notice is there's never a conversation, never a presentation on mastering client relationship dynamics. It is so important as we are in 2024. We're working with age groups, different budgets, different groups of people. We have different types of, events that we're putting on. We have same-sex marriages. We have interracial marriages. We have so many different things that we are now doing that we did not do decades ago. So it's very important for me to come to audience and talk about how to navigate the different, the difficult interactions that we have with some of our clients, specifically, obviously, within the wedding planning industry. As a wedding planner, and I've been in this game since I was in high school, I've seen the trends and I've seen how client relationships have changed over the years. And oftentimes, when you're dealing with younger clients or you're dealing with older clients, everybody has this vision of what they think a wedding planner should be, how they think these relationships should work. And sometimes that's not always the case. But we have to manage those expectations when we first meet our clients. And so that's very important. And as we know, emotions drive these relationships big time.
Well, that's how they're investing in weddings. Let's face it. We're in the business of love, but I also try to remind everybody that we are in the business of an emotion. So people are buying with their emotions. And so these are sometimes very big budgets and very big wish lists with small budgets. And it's really hard for a client sometimes to convey that I don't really have this budget, but I want all this. And so we as wedding professionals, especially planners, need to start seeing some of those red flags. So we have a mix of brand new attendees that might have been in business 1, 2, or 3 years to those that have been established. You have been in this industry. You've seen those changes. I want you to touch a little bit today, and I know you may go into your presentation, but I really want those of all, levels, let's use the word levels, to really hone into your presentation, because what they learn, it could be learning to see signs of red flags prior. So what's some of those red flags that we can look at, and how does that tie in with understanding and mastering that client relation? Because let's face it, if you do not care for this client now, what will it be like on the wedding day? And you don't get to do what you love to do. So what's something that we should look for? And then maybe just let everybody know that you're going to dive into that, but come with that open mind to be ready to hear some things that you're doing that you might need to change.
Absolutely. Well, one of the objectives, there's 3 objectives that I'm hoping to accomplish with my presentation. And one of the main ones, and the first one, is how to equip planners with the skills that they need to understand and manage the expectations and the needs of their clients. We get a phone call or we get an email that someone says, I want you to plan my wedding because I saw you plan my cousin's wedding. Typically it's word of mouth. But relationships are key and very important because it's a personality match. And oftentimes we're taught when we're looking for someone to hire, it's do we get along with them? But as wedding planners, when we're conducting these initial consultations, we need to value, do we get along with the client? Do we see ourselves working with the client? And so some of the key things, specifically with people who are probably new to this industry, is really first touching on understanding your client's expectations. So again, you said the magic word. They'll call me, their budget is $1 million. But when I start working on that $1 million plan, it now turns into, we're at $500,000.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we understand our clients' expectations. So I want to, do some vignettes with the workshop participants to talk about the importance of, what is the vision? How do you understand your client's vision? And how do you articulate that you understand that vision when you're in those initial consultations? And that's crucial in the wedding planning, because again, our emotions run high. We're engaged. We met the men of our
We
dreams.
say yes to everything.
We say yes to everything. We're clipping everything off of Instagram. We don't care how much it costs. We want this wedding venue because this was always our dream. But again, it is managing those expectations. Another thing is the effective communication techniques.
Yes.
That is so important. And when I'm at these conferences, I'm always hearing the key buzzwords of, wait a minute, we are not even talking about communication strategies in
Yep.
2024. It's not like it was the same. So how do you manage those expectations? Long gone are the days of we're sending these long emails, these clear timelines. Everything is click, 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 click. So it's communication techniques, especially when you're dealing with millennials or Gen Z or, all the different things, because I forget all the different groups of
I
people.
can't keep up. No.
Yeah, me neither. So it's important that, we're talking about how to keep our clients informed about what the planning process is, what works for your planner. And, I'm almost 50 and a lot of my brides are younger than me. So it's, oh my God, she's tech savvy. Absolutely. But it's those are expectations that we have to manage for communications. And one of the big things that is very important to talk about is conflict resolution and problem solving.
Yep.
So that's key with these communication strategies. And how do we focus on the resolution? Sometimes we butt heads when we're planning these weddings and things are not communicated. And so we need to be able to learn strategies to effectively communicate with our clients and even their mother-in-laws who may be involved in the planning, or the moms and all the people who want to be a part.
Whoever's writing the check, you want to be able to chat with the person writing the check.
Exactly.
Well, I'll carry that too. I just left another conference, and you and I were both caught in the blue screen of death, Microsoft. But I just left another conference where I was speaking, and the buzz around conflict resolution is higher than I have heard it. But what I want to share, and I would love to get your point so the listeners can hear, is we also, doctor, need to learn to communicate with our fellow colleagues. We've got to learn to communicate better. If you're ghosting a fellow wedding pro, I don't want to hear you complaining that your clients are ghosting you. If you cannot take the time to write back, hey, it's Friday, girl, I'm going to be at a wedding. Why are you dodging me down with 85 questions when I'm walking out the door? So how important do you feel that is, especially for 2024? And I know we have some speakers talking about Gen Z and millennials, but this past week, that was a huge buzz. How do we have conflict resolutions with colleagues? Maybe share a little about how important that is in your point of view as well. And being in this industry, how we have to get better at doing that, because that's one thing I don't think we spend a lot of time on.
Yeah, it's very important, because one of the things that is huge for me is building long-term relationships. Not just relationships with your clients, but relationships with your vendors and other colleagues. That's why it's important for conferences like what ABC is hosting and other entities. It's important that we get out, we meet other colleagues, we meet other people that are doing the same thing that we do, because we learn the skills that we need to build these lasting relationships. When you talk about just the different things that we learn to navigate, everybody is well versed in something. I may be well versed in a timeline, but I'm not well versed in patience and picking out linens. But this is where you come in, and something that I do is I like to work with other planners for multiple reasons, because you're bringing a level of expertise that I may not have mastered in my 30 years in the game. And I may be bringing something in. And so us working together to produce this event, or to produce whatever it is we're doing, a conference, a wedding, whatever it is, that increases our skills for problem solving. And it shows other people in our industry what it means to have successful conflict mediation and resolution skills. That's very important when you're handling disputes, because in this process, there are going to be disputes. See, people don't see the planning process. They don't see the building of the relationships. They just see the pictures. Oh my God, this is beautiful. This is glamorous. But
they have no idea how we got there.
They don't know how we got there. They don't know how many times we've been back each other, going back and forth about something that we may have said, hey, I want to order this, but then you show up with a different concept. We come together. So those relationships, again, are very important. And in this session, I want to explore ways on how do you build on those relationships? How do you I have vendors that I've been working with 10 plus years. They know what it means to show up with a wedding that LaShawn is in charge of. They know
Yes.
my expectations. My staff know what I expect. If I'm not there, I have trained my assistant coordinators to have at it until I show. They know exactly what it is. And so that is why it is so important to understand the culture of where we are today and how to communicate with groups of different diversities of people.
I love to take your take because you brought up culture. Let's talk a little bit from your perspective. And a lot of the speakers that we have some years of experience into this, but you've been around a long time like me, and you and I'm 62, we're a certain age.
Yeah.
I would love to hear your definition. And listeners, we are not saying right nor wrong. We're having a conversation. Please explain to me and to the listeners your definition of luxury and how sometimes that word luxury gets us into this little client disaster sometimes that we get because that word means something different to every person. But if they're coming to you thinking you're a luxury planner because you've said you're a luxury planner and maybe their expectations are far higher, how is that? How can we use that word luxury to avoid some of these conflicts?
Right. There is a particular example that I will be sharing in my presentation. Several years ago, I dealt with a bride who wanted to hire a luxury wedding planner. And I can give you luxury with a couple of zeros behind the
Yeah.
comma. I don't have a problem with it. But when you tell me your budget is something, then I know you can't pay for those luxury services. So I think the culture of where we are today, it's very important that people separate digital planning to in-person planning. When
Love
I'm
it.
when I'm scrolling on Instagram, they can make a wedding look like somebody spent a certain amount of money. But when you start tallying, I'm in California. My California wedding is going to look different than my wedding that I'm doing down south somewhere. When I'm doing a wedding in the Maldives or the Caribbean or Jamaica, it's going to look totally different than it does in California. So it's really helping the client understand, listen, we are dealing with digital times where everything looks grand. Some of those things are photoshopped. So
Yep.
I think it's really important in the beginning stages to help these clients to understand the budget, the breakdown, what that's like. Now, I can help you cut some corners. I can help you with some luxury ideas. But again, it's really clearly communicating what the budget is. And in today's time, it's I want this, but I
Right.
hate this dollar. But there's still this definition between, hey, what is it that you actually can afford and what is it that you can't? And gone are the days, Bobbi, where mom is writing a check, dad,
Yes.
mom may be writing a check, the groom's mom or the bride's mom or the bride's mom. Everyone's writing a check. Oh, we're paying for it ourselves. And so things look different. And so I think it's important when we're dealing even with younger clients to really help them understand that all of this is glitz, but it costs. And we have to get down to transparency in the initial conversations. Don't say we can do those flowers for $10,000. When
Right.
I look at a wedding, I know she spent at least $30,000 on flowers. I can tell the difference. Now, I can tell the difference if she went downtown and pulled some flowers and mom put them together versus I'm pulling on some of my top vendors who are charging me $300 or $400 for a centerpiece for a table.
And I think that that's a lot of it. And we talk about, we have style shoots, we have photo shoots. And I understand when you're first starting out, you need to get something, but just be honest and say, happy to have just done this style shoot. Because folks, some of the things that you're looking at, and it blows my mind 42 years later that I'm looking at some Instagram going, yo, that was not a real wedding. Y'all
Right,
don't have
right.
time to go from here to there to there to there, right? I know from the photographer's eye, you did not shoot all those things in the 45 minutes that you had for photos, right? So I just think if we're honest with clients and say, yes, this is the type of work I aspire to. And that's why I'm on that fence about, if you're luxury, do you really have to call yourself luxury? If you're a luxury wedding planner or a luxury resort, or do you really need that word if the work that you're showing is that? Because again, that mother may come in and say, I want my daughter to have a luxury wedding. We've got a budget of 10,000. That's a luxury to that mother and that family. And why are we running away from sometimes the low budget? Because if you have built your business and you have your business plan in place, you can still make a good profit off that $10,000. But you also, as you said, can't look at that photo and go, oh, I can do those for $2,000, and then go to your preferred vendor and go, hey, I normally know that's $100,000, but can you do this for 10 because I just told we could. We've got to learn to communicate, but we've got to be honest.
We have to.
And we have to be. And this is this new generation. It's quick. It's now.
Yes.
You're hiring people without thinking about, can you really do that job? I spoke this past week on The fake it till you make it is not something I'm a fan of.
Yes,
Take the job that you know that you can excel in and get better every time you take it. Don't
absolutely.
just say yes to a job to work in a venue that you haven't worked at and have no idea how to get there if you want to build a career in this
That's
industry. So
that
I
is
love that.
That's true. And you said a point about what we see. Most of the time, those are staging
Yeah,
photos, and most of the
just say
time,
it.
that is work that people hire people to shoot,
Right.
to do advertising. And that's why, I'm from the old school. I
Mhm.
prefer my clients from word of mouth. I'm not somebody that's going to post a bunch of photos on,
No.
on Instagram and Facebook, because for me, my reputation exceeds a
Yes,
post that I have
exactly.
on social media. And oftentimes those posts can be misleading, because when people come and they say, "Oh, well, they only paid this." No, they didn't, because
I'm
most
like,
people, that's not even a real wedding.
right,
So,
exactly.
no, you're absolutely right. I sell a lot of destination weddings. And so often with destination weddings, you have a little bit more flexibility with
Yeah.
those price tags. But, then again, a lot of times it's really just work that's used to do advertising.
Well, a California wedding can be sometimes double what it could be in the
Absolutely.
Bahamas or the Caribbean. So I
So
love the fact that you're bringing those things to our listeners. How can an attendee best prep themselves to come into your session? I know open mind, open heart, but should they have some questions in mind? Should they be willing to change and be knowing that you're going to get some changes? How can they best prepare to come hear your words of wisdom?
Well, best prepared for me is, I'm not going to sit and talk. I'm not a sit and give. We are going to work through this session. We
Good.
are going to discuss what it means to be professional, what it means to have empathy when dealing with clients. Also, how do you adapt to change and flexibility? How do you adapt to, you're an older wedding planner, but your client is 25 and mom's writing a check. How do you learn how to manage those dynamics? We're going to talk about how to leverage feedback. One thing as planners, we don't spend enough time with getting that feedback so that we can improve ourselves. Another thing that I'm big at is shadowing. A lot of people reach out to me to shadow. Are you practicing internships, mentorships to help up and coming planners? That's extremely important when you're talking about building long term relationships.
Yeah.
Most of the best feedback I get is from people who shadow me, because they're giving me new strategies that work in today's time. Also, team collaboration their client needs, so that they can work on what does it mean to be collaborative and to coordinate. And I always tell people, can your assistant wedding coordinators do a wedding if you should
Mm,
fall out and break your arm and can't show up? Your team needs to know how to manage what your expectations are of as a planner. I want to talk too about the importance of service quality. What worked for this bride is not going to work for that bride. And we get so caught up, this is in the paper, this is what I give,
yeah.
my services. That is when people say, "Can you send me what you offer for that price?" I cannot,
Right.
because your budget is never going to be the same as the wedding I did last week. And what you want and what you're telling me you want is going to be different. Now, let me customize. And we need to move into, what does customization look like? All of these things fall into what it means to manage client dynamics so that you can have a successful client planner relationship.
And let that client sing your praises. Don't worry
Absolutely.
so much about advertising everything else, but let these clients build
Yep.
the foundation of your business. And I
Yeah.
love that. As we wrap up, tell attendees why it was so important that you hit that submit button and why you wanted to share your knowledge with this group of women and men across all generations and just across all years of experience. Why was it important that you, as a global strategist, were there to help others succeed?
For me, as conference attendee from conferences that I've gone to, I've never really heard a lot of sessions done about customer service. And as you said, I built my brand as a strategist. What do people say about LaShawn? Not me buying an ad in a magazine, not me having a billboard. And I
Yep.
don't hear too many sessions where we have real life examples and case studies that illustrate successful client relationship and how to handle difficult clients. Difficult clients, I rarely have a difficult client, because when we meet, I tell them how I navigate this process.
Right.
And so for me, it was important to have this session so that people know, hey, you don't have to fire a client. You may have to redirect them. You may have to reassign some duties, but these are the skills that we need to make this relationship more supportive. I want to be able to provide valuable insight and practical strategies for these type of dynamics, and a special focus on how to navigate these difficult interactions. So I'm excited to share these insights. I'm happy they selected me, and I'm looking forward to meeting so many of my colleagues across the country and helping them to enhance their client management skills.
Well, friends, if you do not love Dr. LaShawn's energy and the wisdom that she's going to bring, and I think the underlying thing here, the ability to change, we all have it. Change is hard, change is good. Standing still and wondering what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong will not move the needle forward. You can have an amazing career in the wedding event industry. So, friends, come get your tickets, come share. Like I said, we have 18 speakers that are going to share their wisdom experience. Now, none of them are going to tell you how to do the work for you. They're going to give you the tools, and you got to get that tools out of the toolbox. I'm going to talk to you about mindset and confidence because you have to have those overlying tools as well. So I'm super excited to meet you, Dr. LaShawn. I can't wait for the attendees to meet you. We will see you in St. Louis. If you have not got your ticket, get your ticket now so you can learn how to navigate and master client relations. I will see you, Dr. LaShawn, in St. Louis, and see everybody else. Thank you for spending time with me, my friend. Look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.